There we go. Hey, we're back. So Joshua was having some issues with recording there with his audio. So was he was trying to get out, and instead of that, accidentally killed the whole stream. So that is why I've entitled this next one, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Joshening, as the fact that he killed the last one. So let that last stream rest in peace. We will remember it very fondly. But moving on from there. Hopefully, people will come back. Hopefully, we'll have more people besides myself to talk about all this. But if not, it'll just be me, and we'll get this done. So, if you think for any reason that this stream has gone wrong, just do what I do and blame Joshua. So, moving on from there, I was trying to remember where we were at. Okay, I do want to say, just to represent what he was going to say, Joshua said that he loved the show even though it was different and not as good. And he's very glad that they officially announced seasons 2 and 3. And I'll agree with that assessment there. It is, shall we say, how to describe this show? It the potential is there for it to be better, and that does bring me hope. Um, so that does want me. It does leave me wanting more, and that's a very good thing for a show. Now, everything else here, the things that I like, we'll continue on that path. I extremely enjoy the way they played Zuko's side of the story, the way that they bring in the Agni Kai, the way that they change something that I do really like that they did, and the fact that the people working for Zuko this time around are the ones he saved from being killed in a needless feint that he argued against his dad for the sake of. And the fact that they learned this after spending years with him and he's never once said this to them out of his own pride. And Iroh's the one that has to bring this to the forefront to them instead of in the cartoon proper. It was very exposition-y. It was very tell don't show in ways that Avatar normally isn't like in the cartoon. So this is something that the soldiers should kind of know in that original one, but the way they changed it here does make a lot more sense. And that Zuko, still in his pride, would not want to tell the 41st Division or whatever it is that the only reason they're alive is because of him, is because of them being assigned to work with him to find the Avatar. That is tremendously well written, well acted in that scene. I mean, I'm ready to see how that plays in for the rest of the story. Iroh in this is perfection. The way that you can see, like, if you know the show, you know some of the hints, like, of how the loss of his son and how that has affected him, and dealing with the Earthbenders that don't like him because of his past as this great general who wreaked devastation upon them, but ultimately failed to capture Ba Sing Se. That is tremendously well done. His relationship with Zuko is just chef's kiss. The two of them, like, they are father and son. Biologically, uncle and nephew, but really at the end of the day, like much in the show, they are father and son. Iroh's the dad that Zuko desperately needs, as opposed to Ozai, who is such a menacing figure in this, in a way that you can't have in the early first season of Avatar, because he was kind of hidden away. He's kind of like this nebulous figure who's just kind of behind the scenes. He's the reason for why all this is happening. He's someone we can hate from afar, but to actually see it in action, to see how he takes down his son systematically and ruins him just for talking back to him, and the way that he handles Azula. Great. I know some people weren't happy with her being brought in this early, but I kind of like it. I enjoyed seeing Azula in this fashion, to see her become this person who is, goodness gracious, daddy's little villain. And she is without a doubt growing in that, what's the word I'm looking for here? That the sadistic tendencies she'll take along the way. Oh, that does remind me. There was one actor I was not, or actress I wasn't particularly fond of. I don't like what they're doing with May. That looks nothing like the May in my head or the May of the cartoon. I'm not trying to, like, comment on the actress's, like, appearance, as far as, like, attractiveness or anything like that, but, like, maybe something will change in how the set design works, or excuse me, not set design, her uh, how they fix her up in other seasons, but she just doesn't look like May to me. Tylee, uh, pretty much, pretty close. Azula, really well done there. So I was just trying to think of what else we can discuss here. And it's all about how the show keeps its pace. I would argue for the most part that this show is kind of okay at best pace. And some of that has to do with being in the live action. Some of that has to do with the fact that I think it's kind of been the biggest problem of television for the past couple of years is that we just need one or two more episodes to help flesh things out, to help give us more breathing space in between episodes to try and establish what's going on here. Now they are adapting about, 45 minutes to an hour-ish episodes here for a cartoon that was about 20, 24 minutes long. So in some respects, it kind of aligns to where that we would end up around 20-ish episodes, but it just doesn't fit. And especially when they're choosing to explore other things in the show that didn't exist in the original cartoon, that takes away from our understanding of the world that is given to us over time in the cartoon. So I'm not as big on that change. It's something that definitely could have been done better. It's fine ultimately. Um, but I really wish now it's just the same kind of problem I had with shows like Ahsoka. It's like, just give me a little more so that I can get these characters. Mandalorian as well. Like, just show me who these people are. Show me what this world is developing into. Give me more, not less, which unfortunately just seems to be what TV is doing these days. And I brought up the earlier example of One Piece as something that was done extremely well. Now, but if you're reading One Piece proper, this show is moving at a demon's pace, getting through episodes, getting through entire arcs within an episode or two, but it's done well enough to where we know who these characters are, we know what they're capable of doing, we know their motivations and all that, then I don't mind. This, on the other hand, I do mind. I would love, just love, to see the opportunity to have Katara actually learn how to water bend instead of like, well, it's happening now because it has to at this point in the show. And I think I'm transitioning from things I like to things I don't like. So I may be all over the place here. But I despise how they handle her learning how to waterbend, and the fact that Aang doesn't learn how to waterbend in this season is shocking to me. It this is the book is called Water. It should be at the end of the show, at the end of the season, Aang should know how to waterbend, and I see no evidence of that. At best, he, paired up with Kyoshi, which was a pretty awesome scene, don't get me wrong, but he himself doesn't know how to waterbend. He himself never had a master. He was not working with Paku or anyone like that. Um, which, speaking of Paku and all that, they kept some of the misogyny there, which is good, but it's not done well enough. We should despise Paku for some of his reasonings, for some of his sexist remarks that he makes. And sure, there's some there to be like, hey, man, that's not cool, but it's not good enough. It's the whole point of Katara's story with Paku was that she had learned on her own as a Southern Water Tribe girl how to water bend in a combat setting, as well as wanting to learn how to heal. But in the Northern Water Tribe society, that's not allowed. Women are supposed to be healers. They're supposed to be uh, support. They're not supposed to be on the front lines. And for her, it's this whole scenario of, but I know I'm capable of doing these things because I've literally done them. Why can you not hear me? Why can you not let me do this just because I am a woman? You are disregarding my capabilities here." Versus, "Hey, we don't like that because our culture, blah, blah, blah." And then 5 seconds later, girl power. That's done so terribly in the show. I'm not a fan of how that was done. And no, speaking of, I mean, sexism and misogyny, we have Sokka, who one of his defining characteristics at the beginning of the show was his sexism. That they gloss over entirely. You're just kinda like, "Okay, cool." And that's not fun. That's not good. I it's like the writers don't understand that it is possible to start from a place where we don't like where a character is at. Hey, I don't like Sokka being sexist. I don't like the misogynist comments that he makes at the very beginning. But you know what I do like? Him growing out of it, him developing as a character to become the person we see in later seasons who knows how to be a good friend to Toph, who knows how to be a good friend to his sister, who knows how to love Suki at the end of the day. That is a Sokka that is undeserved in this show because he doesn't start from a place of misogyny. I And I get in our more modern sensibilities, it's bad to be misogynist. Hey, guess what? It is. It is totally bad to be a misogynist. I am 100% behind that idea. But to deny that being a reality in the world or to just gloss over it and just say, well, people can be misogynist, but we're just going to tell them that we're right and they're wrong and they'll join our side. It's like that fluffy kumbaya way of thinking is stupid. It has no place in this world. There are going to be people out there who may learn to be better, and there are going to be people out there who maintain their evil thoughts and actions no matter what you do or say around them. That is such a Hollywood way of looking at evil and morality that it's just so stupid at the end of the day. I cannot stand when they do that. It creates something that's so superficial and denies the actual reality of things, makes people who have undergone those things feel lesser because they're kind of just glossing over the reality of the situation. There are people in the world today who are misogynists. There are people in the world today who have suffered under the leadership of people like that. Well, do something about that. Like, show a character who starts off from a bad point, like Sokka does in the cartoon, where it because of him, like you could even argue, as some people have as a joke, like his misogyny is the reason that Aang is able to come back into the world with how he makes Katara angry, and that sets new to fold the events that brings Aang out of the ice prison. And yet at that same time, he looks down on Katara because she is a woman, because she's a girl, because he's a man. He's been told by his father, "You got to protect the village. You are the man. You got to do your job." And he didn't tell the same thing to Katara. He told it to Sokka. But through meeting Suki and seeing how capable she is in a fight, and how she can take him down because he's not prepared as she is, and from learning how to love his sister as she is becoming this premier waterbender as the series goes on, it helps Sokka lose his misogynistic instincts. And Asaka the show, I love the actor. The guy is he's having fun. Like Hiyasaki's cracking the jokes he needs to. He's being smart when he needs to be. He's being a goofball when he needs to be. But he needs some more flaws. And if you start off with a flaw like that, well, hey, your character can progress to become something else, to become someone who has learned from past experiences. That is a good thing. That is something I want. So there's that. See what else was changed and all this mess here. Um, that's that I didn't like. Let's see. It's things I did like. I brought up earlier. Zhao. I do love how they changed Zhao. Now, I was a little hesitant at first with being like, well, that's not how he was in the series. He wasn't like this lower level kind of soldier who worked his way up to the top, but like it shows ambition and it shows him being outplayed by Ozai using his ambition against him. I love what they do with that. It makes him so much more effective as a villain that he is, at the end of the day, just a cog in the machine and someone who is not respected by Ozai enough to give him all the resources he needs because the true goal is going to be Almashu. And yeah, sure, take out the Northern Water Tribe if need be, but you're still not the guy I'm after here. You're still not the guy I want. We move from there. See what else. Let's see. I also liked Macchiazzo showing up. There's the Sokka and Yue relationship is it's still the thing. It's like because he has such good chemistry. I think both him and uh Sokka and Suki's actors, like the both of them have amazing on-screen chemistry. Like you could tell, like from the moment they kind of had that little spat. Okay, these two are going to become a thing. Now, obviously, absence makes the heart go yonder. Sokka ends up with you. It's the same thing that happens in a cartoon. It's also kind of, in my opinion, poorly handled there. So he just kind of shows up, falls in love with her too, and they don't make. Oh, that's another thing too. They change. What is it? Han, is that his name? Whatever the her fiance's name is. They make him so soft and loving and understanding, and instead of the huge jerk to contrast that was supposed to contrast Sokka's misogynistic tendencies of how he had grown as a character versus someone like I'll just say Han for the sake of it. I know this might not be his name, as opposed to someone who grew up in that society where this is the thing: men do this, women do that, and this is how things are going to be. And instead, he's just so kind and understanding to Yue, and they're breaking off that relationship for the greater good and all this. And it's such BS. It's not even funny. I cannot stand what they did to that whole thing, and her becoming the moon spirit, it works. It's another thing that could have been better if they had spent more time developing the Northern Water Tribe and everything there instead of like speed blitzing through the whole process. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Aang's character was kind of all over the place for me. I do appreciate the fact that they included that part from the opening where he just uses this little a sphere of sorts and ends up knocking into a statue. That's a very playful Aang. It's a very youthful Aang. But we lose out on the penguin sledding and all that. That's not fun. It makes him a little more angsty, which once again understandable. Entire civilization has been genocided. And cartoon from live action, that's one of the things that kind of has to change a little bit. But it's not fun to see Aang go through that process. See him dealing with the past avatars. He's a little more angsty than usual there. He's kind of all over the place. And once again, I don't think that's the actor's fault. I think it's the direction and the scripts that he's receiving. They say, we need you to act this way. Why? Because we say so. Versus having I almost said Yang. Aang be that fun-loving character. Oh gosh, and speaking of characters who were needlessly changed, uh Boomy. I despise what they did with Boomy in this show. Instead of making him this chess master who was obfuscating insanity and all this mess, they made him a complete and utter jerk who wasn't willing to understand Aang's thought processes or why Aang was gone from the world. Instead, they made him this bitter old man who has very little resemblance to the Boomy of the cartoon, who's like, hey, like, I'm not happy with the way the world ended up, but it's also not really your fault that you kind of ended up in the Avatar state and were sealed away for 100 years. I'm very grateful that you're back. Let's work together. That's a good character. The Boomy of the show is very what's the word I'm looking for here? Very not evil, more of a fallen hero in some respects. And it's super annoying to see what they did with him, especially if they're going to adapt the White Lotus and all that. Would this Boomy have been a part of that organization this whole time? I have my doubts. Like I and also we don't have Piandao this season. What was that? Zhong Zhong was the firebender this season. We don't have that scene of Aang like trying to learn firebending and failing miserably because he hurts guitar, then puts a huge mental block on him that I don't want to learn this because of how destructive it is. But as the Avatar, I need to learn that. That that was something that was desperately missing from the season. That could have definitely added another episode onto this that would have helped flesh that out. But once again, that would require Aang to start learning something besides airbending, which this series doesn't want to do for whatever arbitrary reason. It's just not fun that they made those changes. I'm not particularly happy about that. Yeah, going back to the Boomy thing, it's like, why? Why would you make a character like him who's this fun-loving, quirky guy who has, through the actions of, his obfuscating, insanity and stupidity, enabled Omashu to be where it is right here, to where he is willing to go down those little carts with Aang and act like a kid? Like, what is happening here? Why are you doing this to that character? I'm not happy with that. It's it's a needless change, one that I really wish that they had not done. And no, it's not like Boomy is the main character or anything, but he's important to Aang in that sense of, hey, this is someone who kind of knows how things were back in the day, I can relate to in that sense. It is what it is. So, guys, I've talked long enough here. I'm very grateful you guys showed up for the second part of this, where the stream accidentally ended earlier. But thank you for listening. Please just leave a like, comment down below, help share this video and the one before that to just let more people see this. I'm sorry that other people weren't able to show up. Just conflicts with scheduling and with audio issues, kind of the thing. So until next time, guys. See ya.